There is no better time than now for us to have a public hearing on the above allegations, because it affords all stakeholders to present their position, to be heard, and to exercise their constitutional rights of fair hearing. The instant investigation has become necessary following the reports of the growing number of ministries, departments, and agencies that have refused to submit their reports to the Auditor General for the Federation. Considering the seriousness of the need to hold MDAs accountable for their financial activities and spendings, the framers of our Constitution inserted Section 85 sub 2 of the Constitution, which requires an audit of the accounts of the Federation. All offices and courts, and the audit must be reported to the Auditor General. Section 85 sub 4 of the Constitution also mandates the Auditor General of the Federation to conduct checks of all government statutory corporations, commissions, authorities, agencies, including all persons and other statutory bodies. Quite curiously, based on statistics available, the number of MDAs and statutory bodies that have allegedly refused to comply with this constitutional mandate are growing. In 2011, 76 of such MDAs corporations refused to turn in their accounts. In 2012, 85 refused to turn in their accounts. In 2013, 109 MDAs refused to turn in their accounts. In 2014, 148 agencies. 2015, 215 MDAs refused to turn in their accounts. In 2016, 323 refused to turn in their accounts. Between 2010 and 2015, the Auditor General's reports for these years were lying cold at the National Assembly without any action. 2016 Auditor General's report were received in July 2018 after a 2-year delay. The report of 2017 was received by the National Assembly in 2019. That's why the fact that we are in 2020, the 2018 and 2019 reports are yet to be presented to the nation. We can understand that 2019, but we are worried that 2 years, almost 2 years after 2018 accounts, reports, auditors' reports is not with the National Assembly. These stats are quite alarming, and we need to ascertain the authenticity of this report and probe into the reason for this steep drop and outright disregard for the Constitution that is the grand norm that governs our society. Commentators have consistently emphasized that such an action constitutes a case of both misconduct and gross misconduct under the Constitution. Misconduct has been defined in the Constitution as follows: a breach of the oath of allegiance or oath of office of a member, or a breach of the persons of the provisions of the Constitution, or bribery or corruption, or false declaration of assets and liabilities, or conviction for treason or treasonable felony. The Constitution has also defined the gross misconduct to mean a grave violation or breach of the provisions of this Constitution, or a misconduct of such nature as amounts, in the opinion of the National Assembly, to gross misconduct. The Constitution has clearly created a workable triple system for checks and balances through the roles it has assigned to the MDAs to conduct a self-audit, while the Auditor General is required to receive the reports and conduct checks on some category of statutory bodies, and the National Assembly is required to consider the reports. That's why this workable triple system for checks and balances, key stakeholders have succeeded in frustrating its smooth operations. The danger is that if nothing is done to fix this problem, it will create an incentive for MDAs to become reckless and non-accountable to any oversighting authority. Without doubt, the triple system for checks and balance has not been allowed to work since the enactment of the 1999 Constitution. I partly blame this on the failure of the Constitution to prescribe a clear penalty for non-compliance with this provision. In such an instance of obvious gap in the law, the National Assembly will be left with no option than to exert its powers of appropriation to allocate nil funds to such MDAs for their failure to account for funds released to them. I must admit that the recent decision by Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, in ordering a probe into the activities of Niger Delta Development Commission, an allegation of massive corruption within the system is clearly a case of failure of two of the triple stands to hold their ground and play their constitutional role of checking and preventing abuse. The Office of the Auditor General of the Federation and, of course, the House Committee on Public Accounts and in the Senate, respectively, should have done better by unraveling unearthing the allegations against the previous management of the NDDC. This is apparently an indictment on these two institutions. We all must, therefore, seize this opportunity to correct the wrongs of many years. We must cooperate in finding the answers to these problems. The probe will be thorough, truthful, and honest. I therefore enjoin all present to please cooperate with the committee to find answers to these questions.
Fully adopt every remark made by the chairman of this committee, a highly ranked and respected member of the parliament. And also to add that Public Accounts Committee was deliberately and purposely included in the Constitution because of the strategic and very important role that that committee plays in every parliament world all over. And any attempt to ignore such committee, particularly when agencies of government are invited for an important occasion like this, is a violation of our laws and carries very weighty sanctions. The House is not pleased with the agencies of government that are not present here today, such as the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Accountant General's Office, as well as the Office of the Auditor General, and many others. But just to put this on record, having said that, we are here today to investigate the failure of some government agencies to render audited accounts to the Auditor General of the Federation as mandated by Section 88 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We are here to determine the causes of this failure, and following from that, to also, in the best interest of our country, ensure that this pattern of failure does not occur again. The manager of public accounts holds in trust the hopes and ambitions of millions of people whose fates are tied to the proper administration of that trust. Therefore, management of public finances and accounts rightly imposes on the public servants a duty of care that is far above that which we demand of the ordinary citizen operating in private businesses. It is not enough to be faithful in that administration. Our Constitution further demands that the Auditor General of the Federation and then the National Assembly review those accounts and certify that, indeed, the funds accruing to the Federation, all its offices and courts, have been administered in accordance with the law and in expectation of the citizens on whose behalf we all serve. Where ministries, departments, and agencies of the government fail to fully adhere to the letter and spirit of the law, we create the circumstances for our citizens to believe that the actions we take and the priorities that we pursue are intended not in the service of the greater good, but for the private interest of such persons. This belief undermines the individual's commitment to the ideas of our nationhood and subverts our collective determination to build for ourselves and for our children a nation we can be proud of. The House of Representatives has resolved to act upon this constitutional authority to ensure that the executive live up to their duty of proper finances, of finance care, according to the laws of the land. Mr. Chairman, it falls to your committee, acting on behalf of the House of Representatives of the Nigerian people, to exercise this authority and to do so fairly and with honor. Thank you for accepting this responsibility. I am confident that you are up to the task. Thank you also for all of you who have gathered to participate in this public hearing. I wish you all successful deliberation as I declare this public hearing open. God bless you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.